Konnichiwa, my name is Logan Charles Luna, and this video is going to be about JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 6 anime Stone Ocean that just dropped on Netflix a few days ago. So, right here, I did a rough sketch of something that shows up in episode 2, which is Rat Jolene. And of course, Jolene gets put into this rat suit by her cellmate, Gies, or Goyes, as is in the translated subtitles. And yeah, her stand Goo Goo Dolls is for the people who've seen part 5, which I'm going to talk about that a little bit. Don't skip parts. Part 5 viewers will know that that's also very similar to the stand Little Feet, who, shrank Narancia during their battle. But it was still very interesting to see Araki rework that sort of ability, because every now and then stands do have similar abilities to other stands, but there's always like a buffer, like it's been a few years and that person died, so in a way they're kind of like double fruits. It's like, well, the person who used that power is dead, so maybe someone else can use the power now because they're in a similar situation than the previous stand user, and they give their stand that power. So right off the bat, I want to talk about something that a lot of pretty much anime onlys are complaining about, which is Jotaro Kujo getting nerfed. Yeah, he already got nerfed in part 4, Diamond is Unbreakable, because, and it's the perfect explanation, and I'm really glad Araki did it. However, just to let people know, when part 4 was out, a lot of people did hate over in Japan, and some of the people who were, I'll be honest, like pirating or just ordering Shonen Jump through like the Scholastic event, like I did. I got Shonen Jump through the Scholastic Book Fair, and that's where I started off. So I actually started off in part 6, and this is why, part skipping is annoying because there's a lot of context that you don't know. But because I started off with part 6, I actually understand why Araki, quote unquote, nerfed Jotaro Kujo, because Jotaro was the equivalent of like a prize fighter, or say like if your parent was an Olympic athlete. Over the years, they're not as good as they used to be. Yeah, they're going to be better than the average person who does that sport or event. However, Jotaro Kujo is, one, rusty, because who the fuck is he gonna practice on? 2, he's just old. That happened with Joseph Joestar. Like, Joseph was a lot of people, especially people in the West, his favorite Joestar for such a long time, even when he got old. And people understood, like, oh, he's not what he used to be because he looks older, and he is Jotaro's grandfather. However, with Jotaro, because he has this Keanu Reeves, Paul Rudd type of I never age look, people always expect Jotaro to be in his prime, but his prime was when he defeated Dio. And they talk about that in this part. Like, that's why he's regarded as the invincible stand user, because Dio had an invincible stand and Jotaro beat him. And it's kind of akin to like MMA, when the young up and coming star just shows up and knocks out so many people and then takes out the unbeatable champion. There comes a point where that MMA fighter or boxer or even pro wrestler, they're not in their prime anymore. They can't do what they used to do and they have to take a step back. In boxing and MMA, you get told that you have to take a step back once the new person kicks your ass. So it's kind of the same way in old Western movies where, oh, I'm the fastest gun in the West. And that person is for a long time until somebody faster than them shows up and shoots them. Because that's how it goes. And that's what happens with Jotaro. So I made peace with this a long time ago. And I understand how some people feel about it because the Japanese readers, when Stone Ocean came out, definitely let Araki know how they felt about it because in Japan, it's without a doubt, Jotaro is the number one JoJo. He has shown up in most of the parts and everyone loves him, and they kind of feel the same way as people in the West where it's like, no, he shouldn't have gotten nerfed. He should always be the invincible stand user. So Araki, he wasn't doing so well in the polls when they voted for what the best chapter was. And that's kind of what led to a change that's coming up later. And actually, we already saw it in the episodes that were dropped, where two mysterious men show up in a ghost room that Emporio takes Jolyne into. And yeah, it wasn't always two mysterious men. It was a mysterious man and an androgynous looking person, where you couldn't tell if they were a man or a woman. But instead, they made it very clear, yeah, it's Anasui, they're a dude, and yeah. So Araki wanted Jolyne to be a lesbian, and Shonen Jump couldn't take that risk because, this is mainly a magazine for boys. And also, Araki, like I said before, he wasn't doing so well in those ratings. So they gave him an ultimatum because Araki didn't want to leave the prison yet. And fans were really getting, the Shonen Jump readers. Some of the fans were actually into it. But some of the Shonen Jump readers have been conditioned that JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is like a cross-country road trip. Where in part 3, they literally went around most of the world to get to Egypt. And so he just kind of conditioned people to expect a globe-trotting adventure. But part 6 takes place in a prison for a majority of it. Yeah, they go out into the yard, they exercise, they go out to the farm when they meet Foo Fighters, but for the most part, they're in the prison. And most of the events take place on Jolyne's cell block. Every now and then you'll go to the medical wing or they have to go to the courtyard. But no, most of the time it's either in Jolyne's cell, on her cell block. And that's where everything gets condensed into. There's no venturing out into the other parts of Florida. Because, Araki, knowing how he is, would have really made some weird things go down in Florida. I mean, real life Florida probably already beat him to it with how bizarre they can get. But that's just the thing. Even back then, people were kind of annoyed with part 6. So the powers that be at Shonen Jump gave Araki the infamous ultimatum: either Jolyne gets a bit more traditional with the kind of anime manga character that she is, meaning, being a lesbian and not getting as beat up as some of the other Joestars have gotten. Because Jolyne will get incapacitated. She'll get knocked around a little bit. But Jolyne will not get brutally eviscerated as some of the other Joestars have gotten. Especially Giorno Giovanna. Like, literally, Giorno gets bit in the neck by a shark, which was a stand, and dragged around. And it was pretty violent. There's also the part where Jotaro starts getting his body disassembled by Babyface. Oh no, I'm sorry, Giorno. You see, now I'm fixated on Jotaro just like everyone else. And that's the only one I can think about. But no, Giorno, which is the part 5 JoJo. He's just getting brutally eviscerated by all these stands. And he's learning and he's growing. Because that's what the stands do. They learn, they grow with the person who is their stand user. So yes, Jotaro got nerfed, but because he's getting old, he's not in his prime, and his stand is much in the same like Jolene's stand. You have to take this stand and make it work. Alright? And if you disagree with, oh no, he was always great at using his stand, no, he was just faster on the learning curve. Because as Dio, who is a certified genius, showed everyone, it took him months to learn how to use the world. And he was trying to learn how to use the world. And that's where the heaven plan comes from. Because Dio was disappointed with the results. Because his stand could only go so far. And that's what happened with Jotaro. Jotaro's stand reached its limit, and he couldn't go beyond that point. So, not using his stand for years on end in part 4 shows you that he's a shadow of his former self. It's like when Michael Jordan came back for one last run, and it was just so disappointing. He should have never come back. He should have just stayed retired. Because Michael Jordan retired a few times. And he came back and he was as good as he ever was. And then Michael Jordan wasn't as good as he ever was again. And I think that's like the prime example because in the early 2000s, 2000 to be exact, when this part was coming out, there were a lot of athletes and team dynasties that were falling off because they couldn't hang anymore. And I feel that's kind of what inspired Rocky to do the same to Jotaro. Jotaro can't hang in this world anymore. And that's why part 6 is the end of this version of JoJo's. This universe is done after part 6 and we start going into the Steel Ball Run universe. And that just goes to show you, like, Jotaro, Star Platinum, they haven't shown up in Steel Ball Run because, you know, why would Araki bring that one back? He brought back Dio in the world as like a wink and a nod at the end of Steel Ball Run, but I don't think he'll bring back Star Platinum and Jotaro Kujo because at this point they're kind of a distraction. And it's the problem with success. So Jotaro has kind of just gotten in the way of many other JoJo's, including Josuke and Giorno. Because a lot of people were hyped to see Jotaro go up against the son of Dio, except Dio's son was a pretty good dude, because he had the Joestar bloodline running through him as well. And Jotaro didn't go to Italy. He sent Koichi to go to Italy. And that really rubbed people the wrong way. And that's where, especially in the West, it started showing that people weren't really down with Araki downgrading Jotaro Kujo because that was their hero. And it's just sad to see. But I'd rather Jotaro be put in his place and shown that he can't hang in this world anymore than him be Goku, where he just interferes in everybody's business and says, "Oh, I got this." Like, Goku is the definition of somebody who can't retire, someone who can't walk away. It's like Goku is the Undertaker of the anime and manga world, where it's all like, dude, just stop, just go home, you're too old for this. And that's the thing. The Undertaker finally retired. Finally. At least I hope. So maybe it's time for Goku and Naruto and a bunch of other characters who get involved in series where they already have grown ass kids to stop getting involved. Either they get written off or they get killed. Because I don't think nerfing them is a good solution, because then that just causes a lot of backlash. Also, when you have freaking godlike characters like Goku and Naruto and Ichigo and Jotaro, their offspring can be different and they can be strong in different ways, but they'll always be compared to their parent. So, yeah, Jolene is without a doubt one of my favorite Joestars. And really close up on that list is Jotaro. However, Jotaro isn't the be all end all for most people, because most people in the West like Joseph. They really love Joseph. Because, one, Joseph is Western, he's British and American, and he's just a cocky little shit from New York. But he has flaws, and he goes past those flaws to be a good person. Yes, he cheats on his wife, and he has a son that he never visits. And to be honest, he kind of never really visited his daughter either. Like, when part 3 got animated, you really saw that, like, he never really spent any time here. Because Jotaro was like, who the hell is that guy? Like, that's my grandpa? And it's just kind of funny. Alright, so that'll be the end of this video. It's gone on really longer than I expected. Sayonara, and remember, goodbye, distant dreamer.